Hello, UCSB engineers. Thank you for joining me. My name is Frances, and I'm one of your advisors in the College of Engineering. Today, we present the nuts and bolts of pass, not pass grading. So there have been some changes effective for spring 2020, and we'll start with those. Then I'll go ahead and define the grade breakdowns. So what earns credit when you have the pass, not pass grading scale, what earns credit when you have the letter graded option, and then we'll run through a series of scenarios and some of the questions that you should ask yourself in order to make the best possible decision, and then we'll conclude with some questions. So this presentation is not meant to eliminate the need for you to talk with an advisor, but rather to educate you on some of the subtleties of making a decision about pass, not pass versus letter grading, so that when you do talk to an advisor about your particular situation, you can have a much more individualized and productive conversation. So there often are two schools of thought with pass, not pass versus letter grading. Students sometimes just think, I want to protect my GPA at all costs, and so that's going to lead them to make one decision, or other students might just think, well, I just want to earn credit, and so I'll maybe choose a letter grade just so I earn credit. But as I've mentioned before, there can be a little more to it, a little more strategy, and perhaps a little bit more subtlety, and that's what we'll try to address in today's presentation. So what's the deal with pass, not pass in spring 2020? So why is this even a thing? So you all have pretty much heard that in general, your major courses have to be letter graded. That would be courses that are listed on your major sheets, which you can find in gear. And then most of you are probably in the habit of potentially choosing general education courses for pass, not pass grading. But due to the rapidly changing situation in spring 2020 and moving courses online, and there being, just associated chaos with that, the College of Engineering has made the decision in spring 2020 to allow the College of Engineering courses to be taken for pass, not pass grading. So this is a new change for spring 2020 only. So what this means is courses on your major sheet may be taken for pass, not pass grading, and assuming you pass, apply to satisfy major requirements. Now, you might be wondering, what's a College of Engineering course, and what about some courses on my major sheet that are from other departments? Now, engineering courses are those in chemical engineering, computer science, electrical engineering, and mechanical engineering. Your major may also include courses from chemistry, math, physics, statistics, etc. Those courses might be offered for pass, not pass grading. You will need to check gold. This is department specific, and since those courses belong to the College of Letters and Science departments, we don't exercise authority over those. But if they're available for pass, not pass grading, you may take them for pass and apply them to the major requirements. The other big change is that the grading option deadline has been moved back to June 5th of 2020. This is the 10th week of instruction. Normally the grading option deadline is the 7th week. So you will have additional time to gauge where you are in your classes before making this decision. But choose your option wisely. You have extended time, and you will not be able to request to change the grading option after June 5th. So it is important, again, that you have kind of some solid decision-making skills to be able to choose something for your best option. Let's start by defining what grades are needed in order to award a unit. So when units are awarded, that means you get credit and it applies to requirements. And so any grade of D- or higher, or a grade of passed, will award units and can be applied to requirements. So only grades of F or not passed do not result in units. Now, sometimes particular classes are a prerequisite to another course and need a specific grade, like a C- or a C, in order to move on. But as far as actually earning credit, any grade of D- or above, or a grade of passed, will apply. I mention this particularly because many times I hear students say, oh, I failed the class, and I'll ask them, well, what grade did you actually get? And they'll say, oh, a D+. It's not actually technically failing. You earn credit for that requirement, and that means the requirement can be satisfied. Now, you may need to repeat it in the future to improve GPA or to move on to the next course, but technically units and credit are awarded. Now, if you have selected the pass to not pass grading scheme, the line between earning credit and not earning credit actually shifts a bit. And you can see on the screen that grades of C or higher are actually needed in order to earn a grade of passed, have units awarded, and credit applied to requirements. So actually in this scheme, a grade of C minus or lower will actually result in a not passed. Units are not awarded. So it's important to keep this distinction in mind. Now, your professors do not know which grading option you have selected. You make the change in gold. They always enter a letter grade, and then if you've selected pass, not pass grading, the system will convert it based on the scale that you see on the screen. And so again, the benefits of a pass grade sometimes for students are they just need credit and they are not going to worry about their GPA, whereas sometimes the benefits of the letter grade are you just need credit, and the margin, the grade for earning credit is a little bit lower, and so that's something to keep in mind. So that being said, we're going to walk through a series of scenarios and some key questions that you will want to mull over as you're making the decision. Now, I will say this, if you're doing really, really well in a class, there's no reason not to take it for a letter grade. If you are doing well in a class, but you need to focus your energies on some of your other classes, and you know for sure, without a shadow of a doubt, that you're going to be above a C, but you don't necessarily want a C plus on your record, then you might consider the pass, not pass grading option. But as I said, sometimes depending on the scenario, there can be a little bit more to it. So we're going to start with general education courses. So some key questions to ask yourself are, do I have time in my curriculum to complete this requirement in a future quarter if for some reason I received a not pass? So let's say you're thinking about changing it to pass, not pass grading. Will you have time? Look at your grid, which is in your gear, see what's upcoming, see, are you trying to pursue a minor as well? Do you have a lot of room in your schedule to be able to take this class, or this requirement, I should say, in the future? Does this course satisfy multiple general education requirements? So let's say something like Black Studies 1 or Chicano Studies 1A. Those two courses happen to apply to the UC requirement of American History and Institutions, to General Education Area D, to Special Subject GE Ethnicity, and Special Subject GE Writing. So that one class hits 4 markers. So if you don't successfully complete this class, would you maybe have to take 2 more classes in the future to cover all of those, just based on availability? And then again, that brings me back to the first question of how far along are you in your time here? And based on the answer to those questions, you might say, I think I should probably take a letter grade, because that way at least I have credit even if I get a C minus. Versus if you're a first year student, maybe you can afford to have the not passed, because you'll have plenty of time in your degree and your time to make it up. Another consideration is, do you hate this general education requirement? Do you never want to see it again? If it's the literature requirement that you can't stand, then maybe you do just want to make sure you get it done. And then the other question is, how important is your GPA to you? How long have you been here as well? Because it takes a bit to move your GPA when you've been here a long time. Letter grades obviously affect GPA. The pass to not pass grading scheme only applies credit or not. There is no GPA weight to a grade of pass, and there is no GPA weight to a grade of not passed. So if GPA protecting it is really important and you have time in the future to make up the credit, then you might be satisfied with a pass not pass grade. And then decision time, really, what kind of feedback are you having on your grades in the class? What's the grade based on? Is it only based on exams, or is there a series of homeworks to allow you to kind of compensate? Is it attendance based? And of course, how heavy is the curve? Because again, if GPA is really important to you, then what kind of feedback you're going to have in your performance is going to be incredibly important to you. And again, that June 5th deadline is hard and firm. So now, GE, most of you are probably familiar with some of those decision-making points, but here's something new for spring, which is major courses. Remember, prior to spring quarter, all major courses had to be completed for a letter grade. For spring quarter only, there is the option to complete them for pass not pass grading as long as they're offered for pass not pass grading. And this might seem like, great, awesome. But again, there's some considerations here, knowing what we know about the grade needed to earn units with a letter grade, D- or higher, and the grade needed to earn units with the pass not pass scale, C or higher. Key questions: is this course an elective within your major? So if you don't successfully complete it, you can just easily choose another one to fit that slot. Or is it a very specific required major course? Is this course only offered once a year? Even if it's an elective, you know, you're really, really interested, it's going to benefit you in your future goals to have this particular course. And if it's only offered once a year, does that fit in with your plans? Or especially if it's a required class only offered once a year. Is it part of a sequence? Is it a prerequisite to another course? These are going to be key questions, because if it's part of a sequence or potentially a prerequisite, you probably want to make sure that you're earning credit for that requirement so that you don't add potentially a year to your degree. And then of course the other big question is how close are you to graduation? Let's say the major course is an elective, meaning just one class of your tech electives. Let's say you're a chemical engineer and you have to have 15 units of tech electives. Can you make that up in the next quarter if you're going to graduate? You know, are you a spring candidate, and are there any engineering courses offered in the summer if you don't successfully complete this one? So again, these are the kinds of things to keep in mind as you're choosing letter grade versus pass not pass. And of course, as always, feedback is so important. How much assurance will you have that you're doing well in the class, or especially when you're right potentially on the line? We know you're juggling a lot. It's a new format, online classes for you and for your professors. So how heavy is the curve, and what kind of feedback? Are you hovering right there between a C and a C minus, or a C plus, C minus? And so there's a lot of uncertainty going into the final, knowing where your grade's going to land. And again, if you need credit, sometimes the letter grade, although it will affect your GPA, might make sense to allow you to move on. And again, we're happy to do individual consultations with you, but these are some key questions to get you thinking. For my graduating seniors, is this course required for your degree? Is there another course offered in the summer that meets the same requirement if you are a spring candidate? And again, how much feedback are you going to get on your performance? I think the biggest piece of advice I could give or just statement of fact is that there potentially is less risk for a graduating senior with letter grades, because you have more margin if with earning credit for a D minus or higher. Again, you have to have a C or higher in order to earn a pass. And you know, you all are excellent students, and so this might seem a little strange to be talking about grades less than C, but again, we recognize that these are difficult and stressful times, and the feedback, the format is new. You might be juggling more on your plate right now. And so partially why the decision was made to allow courses to be taken for pass not pass for your major. But we also know that you want to be strategic to make sure that you can still achieve your objectives. And then lastly, for those of you who might be thinking about trying to raise your GPA, remember, grades of pass do not affect GPA, nor do grades of not pass, so only letter grades. But the other key question is, how long have you been here at UCSB, and how many courses have you taken? So the more grade points you earn and the more units you earn, the harder it is to really budge your GPA. And again, how close to graduation are you? Because if you're about to graduate, sometimes those letter grades aren't going to affect your cumulative GPA quite as dramatically. Again, how much feedback are you going to have on your performance before having to make the decision? GPA, this is always something you're welcome to schedule an appointment with me or one of my colleagues about, and we can play the what if game if you want. If you don't know how to calculate GPA, again, reach out to us and we can walk you through that. But again, This is important. Now, if you are a student who is on academic probation, maybe had some academic difficulties and you're trying to raise your GPA, please talk to us individually. So please schedule an appointment. We're very available. Please schedule an appointment to talk with us so that we can look at your record and talk about the specific, make specific recommendations. So those are just some of the common scenarios. Now we'll go into the questions maybe. And so you might be wondering, okay, I think I understand some of the decision-making points between letter and pass, not pass, but can I, in spring, could I actually choose pass, not pass grading for all of my classes? The answer to that is yes, but make sure the courses are optional grading. And make sure you remember that it can be a risky decision. If you, some reason, things don't go quite as planned and you somehow ended up with all not passed grades, you would earn 0 credit, which could have some significant, present some significant difficulties, certainly for courses, satisfying requirements, prerequisites, sequences, but also potentially if you're a financial aid recipient and you haven't completed enough units for the year, it could potentially cause some ripple effects. Next question, can I repeat a course in the future if I've earned a grade of not passed? So spring quarter, I take a class, I get a grade of not passed. Can I take it again in the future? The answer is yes, as long as the course is offered again. Remember, those not passed grades award 0 units, but they do not affect your GPA. So obviously, if you are doing quite poorly in a class, the not passed option might be a good choice so that you don't damage your GPA and you will be able to repeat it in the future. Can I repeat a course that I've earned a grade of passed? No. Now, the only exception to this is the types of courses that can be taken multiple times for credit. So for example, research courses like 196s, it's the same class number and you can take it more than once and earn units for different continuing the research projects. But if you are in ECE 120A and you take the class and you get a grade of passed, no, you cannot try to repeat it for a letter grade. Next question. I am repeating a course where I had a grade of C- or lower originally, so a letter grade originally. When I'm repeating it, can I choose pass, not pass grading? The answer to that is yes, but of course you must earn a grade of passed. Now what happens in that scenario is the original grade gets removed from your GPA, but does stay on the transcript. However, because you have a grade of passed, there's no new grade to put in its place. So it certainly can affect GPA by removing the old grade, but it won't necessarily raise it in the same way as if you were to earn, let's say, an A in its place. So if this is your scenario, reach out to an advisor and we can walk you through that. And then lastly, I need the financial aid this quarter. Can I just get grades of all not passed because I need to be enrolled? It's a bad strategy. You will likely have your financial aid cut moving forward or potentially even owe money back. So it's really important that you are really careful with earning credit this academic quarter. And again, any questions, you can always reach out to an advisor. So a few other things to consider, because like I said, sometimes pass, not pass versus letter graded might seem really straightforward. So a few other reminders. Not all courses are offered for optional grading. You check in gold. Now they're still working on some of that at this stage on getting all of that updated. So keep checking, but I believe by the end of April, that should all be finalized. If you are in the college honors program and you are in your honors courses, which are graduate level courses or courses in your major department numbered 196 through 199, in order for it to count for college honors program requirements, you do need a letter grade of B or higher. If you're trying to earn quarterly Dean's honors, remember that you need a minimum of 12 letter graded units with a 3.5 quarter GPA and no grades of not passed. If you are a student receiving veterans benefits, grades of not passed can affect you and might mean that you owe back money. So if you're a student receiving veterans benefits, you'll want to reach out to your contact on that side to make sure you understand what scenarios that would be true in. And then lastly, if you have law school on your brain, please know that not pass are calculated as an F when law schools go in and recalculate your GPA. So just a few other side considerations. Stay connected. You can reach out to us. You can follow what's happening on campus still, and you'll see our general email address on the screen. Feel free to send some questions. Again, if you'd like to have that sort of back and forth experience, schedule an appointment with one of the advisors. Myself, I'm Frances, or one of my excellent colleagues, and we can have a Zoom appointment and walk you through that decision-making process. So final reminders, that deadline is firm on June 5th. So please make sure you've made your decision and you're happy with it, because there will be no changes after the fact. And secondly, make sure if it's a class offered outside of the College of Engineering that you check in gold to see if it will be offered for optional grading, because that was up to the departments. But again, your College of Engineering courses that are owned, so to speak, by engineering will be permitted to take them for optional grading. And as long as you successfully complete the class, so a pass or a D- or higher, they will of course apply to your major requirements. Thanks for joining me today as we've gone through the nuts and bolts of pass, not pass grading.